Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy, back at it again with another video. Um, I just went on a really nice walk outside. It's like, what, 11 p.m. right now? And whenever I'm on these walks, man, I really get some, like, really prolific thoughts. I just get, my brain just starts flowing and I can just think all these things I want to say. But then when I sit down at my desk and I have to get things ready, I don't write any of this stuff down. I probably should start doing that. I used to do that with my older videos, but I always felt like I was reading off a script and I didn't like that. I kind of like to improvise a little bit. But something that I was basically thinking of was just basic video ideas, and this one kind of popped up with all the walking and thinking. It's one of the books I had to read for my theology course. It's called The Pensees by Blaise Pascal. Uh, Yeah, it's like it's just basically he's a he was an inventor of his time, a French inventor, made a lot of things that we take for granted. I think he was one of the first. He made one of the first calculators. I remember that, and he was like he was already studying like laws of probability, like just the idea, like the math of probabilities, and a whole bunch of stuff. He had a lot of ideas. He was he was a physicist, like a chemist. He did a lot of shit. Like he made a vacuum. He made one of the first vacuums. Like I'm not talking like the ones that you use for your house. I'm talking like a vacuum of space, like in like in like a glass with like no air. He figured out how to do that. Dude was incredibly smart, but he was also like a little disabled too. He was very sickly, very weak, and during the end of his time, he was writing a lot of ideas, and he was basically just compiling a bunch of ideas to defend Christianity and be in defense of Christianity. And if you're not like a big Christian, that's fine. But I think uh, I think reading that book really changed my life, and at least like the way that I went through it in that course, it was well worth whatever I was paying in tuition, in my opinion. And I really give it up to my theology teacher, Professor Gormley. That dude's goated. He's probably the best teacher I keep saying one of the best teachers. He's one of the best teachers I've had in a while. And it was a joy. It was just me and him basically bouncing ideas off each other in that class. Um, I I have like a lot of quotes from that book that I just wrote down, and I'll probably open them up later on in life. But I think like one of like his most famous quotes that he has, other than Pascal's wager, which is like the big thing about believing in God and why you should believe in God from an objective standpoint. But one of his most famous sayings was one of the first things we went through was how like a lot of man's like I'm paraphrasing this, but a lot of man's suffering comes from the inability of him being able to stay in his room and reflect. And this guy wrote this back in like what? Like I think like the 1600s, I want to say, like around there. Bro was spitting facts like 400 years in advance. A lot of these same problems that we deal with now are applicable back then. Maybe circumstances and culture are different and the way like technology has helped us, but the idea still stands to this day. How I see from like a lot of people out there that it's just their inability to just be able to reflect inside a space that is comfortable for them. It doesn't have to be your room, just like a comfortable space that you can reflect in quietly to yourself. We've lost the ability to do that as people, and or at least like overall society has like not made it a top priority, which I'm gonna get all conspiracy theory, but like there's a reason why people don't want you to reflect and think about life. They want you to just consume, eat the product, consume the product. They want you to always be constantly consuming and eating. They don't want you thinking about what you're doing. And I keep saying they. I should probably be more specific. Like, let's like, I guess like big mega corporations, for example, like social media, ultra processed foods. What else? I guess porn could be compiled into there. Legal drugs such as weed, even alcohol to some extent is like a goyish thing. Even though like low key like alcohol's kind of goaded, but still, like all these things are there to just distract us from like being us. And we're always fed this advertisement. We're sold this advertisement that this is who you are. You're the product. You're what you're consume. You are what you consume. That is true. But the way they're spinning it is that like, say for example, you wear like Lululemon. Like, yeah, you wear Lululemon, so you're like an athletic, fit type of guy. But like, what what the real saying is like what you consume, like what kind of media you consume, what you let into your thoughts. That's what makes who you are. If you're letting short form brain rot run your life, if you're letting other people's opinions run into your life, and you're letting like just negative energy into your life, it's gonna make you a more miserable person. And we barely spend any time and reflect on this. I was at work today and I was kind of getting bored and I started reading some forum pages of like a website I usually like, and I caught myself, just I know that like reading those opinions and reading people's like schizophrenic online thoughts is just it's funny for like the first like 5 minutes, but then afterwards you just start reading some brain slop, some fucking absolute like retarded shit. And during that time I could have just written to myself. I could have written a poem, I could have written like just how I felt, anything. Just create right there. Writing is a creation of yourself. I prefer these kind of, I prefer like this kind of media to create, but either way, it's still creation. But yeah, it's a, the Pensees is a really hard book to get into. I would have never gone into it if it wasn't for that class. I don't expect anybody else to. It was a really good read because it was just like scattered thoughts, but the way my teacher formatted it, it was a very comprehensive story that he was trying to tell about like living life. I'm very grateful for that experience that I had in that classroom. I always find myself like going into these good habits, forming good habits, and then like now I'm in this like weird period where like I can continue good habits or I can like seep down a little bit and like watch other people's content and let other people's ideas influence me. And it's kind of hard cuz like YouTube is the only social media I have at this point. And there are some goated ass channels out there, but at the same time all the stuff that I watch now is just like either like stuff I've watched, like video essays about media I've already watched or video essays about media I'm interested in watching, and lol cow documentaries like Turkey Tom, even though like when people explain to me how like his way of narrating these people's lives is very negative, paints them in a bad light, dismisses the fact that a lot of these lolcows have disabilities, and he's just basically like treating them like they're scum of the earth, even though there's probably worse people out there for sure. Um, I watch like DBDR sometimes. I watch like some black pill, like quote unquote black pill YouTubers, but when I watch them, I'm saying like I watch them for entertainment, you know, but I gotta be careful because like you are what you consume. Like that's like the whole point of this video. I think that's pretty it, like pretty much it. I don't know. Ponce's is a bona fide classic. Super glad I got to read it.